So I think, was it October we started?
It was,
something like that. And thinking that, we talked about like it was a rise and a rise and a rise. You know, we'd bought in leads, we'd all knitted in well. Everything was really starting to, you know, we was really on kind of a steep progress curve. And we started the podcast, and we started the podcast because we want to tell people about real stories in real life. And it's quite interesting that we sit here and we're just about to start series 2. And I guess we're not in the same position as what we was in that kind of the heights of when we started series 1, which in many ways I think is a good thing, because these podcasts are about real life business. What's happened? Great year if you look at it from, you know, our start in January to the end of December, and sometimes you have to do this just for sanity. Sometimes you have to take a step back and think, hold on a minute, we started at A and we've ended up at B here, and that's a great achievement, what we did in the whole of the year. But it kind of dropped off November, December, and it's been a difficult couple of months, and I don't know whether that's the time of the year. You know, December's always slightly more difficult, but because there's less working days. But yeah, just generally, we went from hitting target, record month, and then October was a great month, and then November should have been a great month and wasn't. We should have picked it up in December, and we didn't. So we're kind of starting the year. I feel a little bit like, you know, it's like that. It's like that. I always think, me as well, it's how you end the race and not how you start the race.
Right.
So I think even on LinkedIn, I put something up on the 1st of November, and it's like, guys, I hope you're not kind of running yourself down into Christmas mode. You know, there's no point winning a 100-metre race 80 metres in and slowing down and watching 2 or 3 people pass you at the line. And in many ways, if I assess it looking back, I feel like great year. If I look at the last 20 metres, if you like, of the race, I feel like we could have done better. So slightly frustrating. But yeah, you know, we put ourselves on a different platform, a different pedestal. And in business, and as you've seen with the podcast, we'll talk a bit more about them later, but you just don't get a journey in business that goes, you go from number 1 and you get to number 2 and success level number 3 and number 4. It just don't work like that. The minute you put yourself up onto another platform, kind of you leave yourself open for vulnerability. It's funny, I was at an event on that we had here a couple of days back, and there was a chap who does a sports psychologist at Burnley Football Club, and what he put up on the TV was, I think it was a crayfish or a shellfish. It was some kind of fish, and it's sped up. It sped up what happens or how it evolves. And you had the crayfish, let's call it for now, and it was there and it was fine in the water. And then over a period of time, that crayfish will start to shed its shell. And the reason it does that is because the shellfish grows, but the shell doesn't grow, of course, it's hard. And what it showed was, over a very quick period, the shellfish would expose itself, shell its protection, and it quickly scarpered off to the corner of the tank or whatever it was in and hid in the corner. And it was a great analogy, that, of where I felt like we were today. We could have sat where we were beginning of last year in one city, 50, 60 staff, really nice, organically growing business. And what we decided to do, if you like, was take off our shell in order to grow. And when you do that, you expose yourself and you can be a bit vulnerable. So that's where we are at the moment, and that's the best analogy you can give. It was a perfect event to go to, really, just to kind of give that analogy that now, when that shellfish grows its shell back, it grows itself and the shell grows with it in the new size. I guess that is where we are today.
Yeah, well, it's fitting as well. It's a new year, so new challenges. I mean, you talk about it like a race. Would you say, I mean, when I think of like growth and stuff and looking at a chart, it kind of looks more like a mountain. Race, does that mean you're comparing yourself to others? Or
I'm not sure. I've just always had this idea of, I always feel like people start to, from November, peter off. And I've never understood it. Years ago, I don't nowadays, but years ago I used to work Christmas Day. I once read that Linford Christie, talking about racing, I once read that Linford Christie's favourite day of training of the year, whether it's true or not, it's Christmas Day, because he felt like everybody else would have that day off, except him. So that day he would
be the best.
He would push himself forward more, or catch them up, whichever way it was. And so I read that like 15 years ago, I think, and thought that is a great thing. As I've got kids and as I'm getting older, I'm starting to think that that's not the way to be. But I don't know why I've always had that analogy of, I think sometimes complacency sets in. And I think the people that tend to do well over a long period of time, of course, are the ones that are consistent and avoid that complacency. And so I always guard us as a firm, try to send out little hints about, let's not have a fantastic 10 months and peter off in the last 2. If I'm honest, I feel like we petered off in the last 2. Can't take away, looking at the year as a whole, it was, we doubled in size, 100% growth last year, opened in 2 extra cities, of course, because we've got London, which we did organically, and we did Leeds as an acquisition. So I can't be too fierce in my criticism, if you like, but it just didn't end in the way. It didn't end in glory.